There we go. And with that, I'll turn it over to Lauren.
Your wish is our command. Well, Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for jumping on today, and happy 1-year anniversary, really, of the issuance of the State Water Plan. I think the traditional 1-year anniversary is paper, and because paper is delicate, but it can, with proper care, can last a lifetime. And so that's where we're hoping State Water Plan, with our proper care and treating it delicately, we can make it last a lifetime. On our agenda today, we're really going to hit on a couple of main things here on legislation updates, and then really on the implementation milestones from each of the topic areas, and get the updates from there. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Wes, if you want to take us into the agenda. Thank you.
Yeah, and one thing that we don't officially have listed on the agenda, but we always need to take care of business. So we have the approval of the last meeting's minutes. So you should have seen a copy come out right before the Christmas break. And then we actually had a revised version come out just a little bit before lunchtime today. So hopefully you all had a chance to take a look at those or scan through them quickly. And I guess I'll kind of open it up. If anybody has any comments or questions, I'm going to switch screens here to see if I can just share those meeting minutes. And, well, now, of course, hold on. Oh, wrong button. My apologies. There we go. Apparently, I'm out of practice a little bit with WebEx. So I guess you guys should see these. Here's the meeting minutes. Again, this is the version that was just sent out a little bit before lunchtime, as we had some corrections. So I guess I will open it up. If anybody has any additional comments or edits to be had, feel free to unmute and speak up. I'll wait just a moment, and if none, then I guess we'll see if anybody wants to make a motion to approve. Okay, not hearing any comments or edits to the meeting's minutes. Is there anyone who'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I'll motion to approve.
Steve Altman, the motion. Can I get a second?
Second. This is Brian. Second.
Seconded by Brian McCoy. So with that, we'll move into voting. All in favor of approving of the October meeting minutes? Can I just get an aye?
Aye.
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 And anyone opposed? Same sign? Okay, with that, hearing no opposed, so we'll move on, and the meetings are now approved. And we're just going to share screen one, and then we're going to come into here and load back in to our presentation. All right. So from that, we got the meeting minutes. And so I just want to give a quick summary of where we are based on submittals. So thank you all to those who submitted your recommendation statuses to me. As we can see, we had 7 of the 13 sections reporting. We still have the same number of recommendations. There's been no additions or drops. And we are showing that we have 35 recommendations started. The average progression of those just around 25%, with a total of 3 completed recommendations so far a year in, and probably what we were thinking of 1 year of 8 is kind of the goal we had set out, that, you know, we kind of spend 2 years developing the plan and 8 years implementing. So just going to give everybody an overview of where we are. If you're kind of curious on how we progressed over the year. The bottom line is the oldest of the quarterly updates. So this is updates per quarter we've had. Again, you see actually from last time, whenever we got an update, it appears that maybe a couple were left off that had been updated previously. So we actually went down and the number started. I didn't have time to explore where that one actually came from, but we're still overall progressing with the percent progression for all the recommendations. So this is kind of where we're at a year. So we kind of hit this milestone. You know, right now, currently what we present on our website is just this progress recommendation statistic. I guess I'd kind of throw it out to the group. Back when the previous report was published, they would actually create and update kind of a progress report on an annual basis. So I guess I would throw it out to the group to see if anybody has any thoughts or opinions on if we should be creating some kind of annual document to essentially record the progress made on an annual basis. It's something we've talked about whenever we were working on the report. I think it's actually even included that we would be doing these quarterly reporting on the website and maybe come up with something annually in some kind of PDF or more of a formal written report. So I guess I was kind of contemplating what that could look like. I don't think anybody's really looking for a 20 or 30 page report by any extent, but maybe providing just some of these summaries and maybe a highlights of what was completed in the year and maybe some highlights of you know, what's being worked on or some of the key issues that were addressed or milestones reached, even if it wasn't completed. So I guess I'll kind of take any feedback or comments on that. That would actually may require a little bit of input from the topic leads. But I guess I'll kind of wait to see if anybody has any
Yeah,
thoughts.
there are a couple of chat notes that have come in saying a one-pager would be appropriate, and I agree with that as well.
Okay, so right now I'm kind of hearing the one pager. Is anybody else having any other?
Well, this is Lauren. I guess that's where my mind went, was to a one page, potentially with links if we really had something more that we wanted to share. But I think kind of a one pager, and maybe that's even a front and back if necessary, that primarily for, you know, the legislative staff and some of the stakeholder entities that are staying plugged in, that gives them that quick update and then potentially maybe with links to go to something if we have a little more detail we want to share. But I think agreeing with, you know, some who've already spoken, that I think keeping that in front of folks is important to keep them aware of the State Water Plan and progress being made, and that it's still out there and a report to be understood and dealt with. Or a plan, I should say, a plan, not a report.
So I guess I'll kind of open it up also to if anybody has any thoughts on what else could be included. I mean, I guess I see putting essentially this table in there just to kind of mark our progress over the year. You know, we talked about including any links of pertinent information, you know, listing those recommendations that have been completed to date, and maybe any other milestones or significant highlights we'd want to include. Is there anything else? I think, Ryan, you kind of mentioned a dashboard chart for the website. You know, I guess, what do you envision or see for that dashboard? Can you give a little more detail to that?
Yeah, I can talk to that. So I just seen some progress reports that people post on websites, such as for projects as they go towards completion. They'll usually show like the funding, or how things are progressing, all the numbers. So what you're showing right now, the numbers, you can put like a graphic display. You can graphically display it with a chart, pie chart, whatever, bar graph. You can just do a little dashboard. You can display some of the numbers, just kind of like our one pager we had for the legislators that we had last year, where it was like some pie charts.
So just take these numbers and make them more graphically appealing.
Yeah, and they don't have to be huge. They could just be little small graphical charts on the dashboard. It doesn't have to take a lot of space. Even on the one pager, if you want to put them down in the middle or in the bottom or something.
Okay.
Brian, I was thinking the same lines of building off the one pager we did at the release, that kind of that format, and it would look similar or have that, and then especially with a one pager, we can get that converted into at least Spanish, if not another language or two as well. And that keeps that inclusivity perspective real.
Yeah, I like that. Keep it simple too. So.
Yep.
All good suggestions. Anybody else have any other suggestions or recommendations? And not hearing anything, feel free to chime in if you do. I think what my plan will be is to maybe take that one pager previously and look at maybe updating that instead of more of a background information, more focused on what's been completed and progress, and go from there, and probably circulate it for comments to the task force. But I'd like to get that out before the April meeting. So I guess I'll probably, if everybody's good with it, look to just circulate that and get comments and feedback, and essentially an unofficial approval from everyone saying, yes, let's go ahead and accept this. Or Lauren, do you think it'd be better to officially approve that summary page? I don't know if it's needed.
No, I don't. I think our goal should be to get something together before the spring session. I mean, not that the General Assembly is our only audience, but there's certainly a key element of our audience. And so I think hitting them with an update right at the beginning as they go into spring session is kind of strategic. So I think that would be good. So I think if we could send out a draft and give a certain deadline for comments, otherwise we finalize and go, I think.
Now, one thing that, and I'll actually go ahead and pull it up here, is I guess, is there any desire or concern to sharing this maybe on as a link on our website where it has the more full details? Currently we don't, but I'm not opposed to uploading this and sharing this up there. I guess, anybody have any yay or nay for that idea? Any concerns of sharing this, or?
I would suggest not. It just seems like far too much detail, and you're kind of caught highlights of all these zeros and 10% in there. So I would suggest summarizing this further without giving quite as much detail at the moment.
I probably agree with that too, because some of them are like I still have some to be determined stuff on there and everything. So, and still trying to finalize the numbers with the estimated completion dates and stuff. So, and you might have some people hold you to those estimated completion dates, and those might move around as we progress. Someone might hold us to that if it's open to the public.
And that's especially true if they're funded by outside agencies, which happens a lot in the climate group. We can't control when funding comes in.
Well, I guess I'll just put my 2 cents in that this is all public information. The document, the work being done is all being done by taxpayer dollars. I kind of lean towards the side of transparency. And if something gets pushed back, then it gets pushed back. I'm not opposed to not sharing it, but I guess my preference would be that, hey, this is us being honest, and that's why we have the column in there that talks about restrictions and obstructions that's keeping us from doing this. That's why it's an estimated data completion, and you know, if it's chances are if somebody's really looking for something, they're going to reach out to us and you know, FOIA it if they absolutely need it. But it's kind of been the policy of this agency that if they're asking for it, we typically share it unless there's any kind of specific restrictions that we couldn't do that. So I guess I would vote the other way, but I'm just one person.
I may misunderstand a little bit. Is this a discussion associated with the annual report, or is this just an overall question? Should we have a link to this on the webpage? If it's an overall link to it from the webpage, I agree. It should be made available. If it's part of the report, that seems a bit overkill.
Yeah, David, I apologize. I should have clarified. I saw this as a link on the website, maybe underneath, I guess, kind of underneath this table, you know, see full detail or see individual recommendations, some kind of comment here with the hyperlink that would take you to this spreadsheet that you could download. I don't see this being a part of an annual report or anything. You know,
Okay.
Trying to print this out, we're talking about, you know, 8, 12, 15 pages or something like that. And like you said, it'd be a bit of overkill. I definitely agree with that comment.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. I changed my vote.
Of course, our report would have, you know, the links to the website and maybe a reminder of the key contacts. You know, if somebody had a you know, question that popped into their mind about Lake Michigan, well then who, you know, it would show who the contact and how they can get a hold of that individual to get details or ask specific questions.
Very good. Yeah, and Anya, I see your comment here about the one pager and highlighting a specific success story. I think that's a good idea if we can put some kind of a little bit of a narrative or storyline in there. So again, I might be reaching out to you all for maybe if anybody has any suggestion or would volunteer to if they have a good example for that as well. So I guess from what I'm hearing now, everybody's okay with maybe providing a link to this on our main website, just so that if they have a particular task they're following, they could go and check it out as we update this quarterly, and obviously not include this in our annual publication. And I guess I'll kind of open it up if there's any other comments or questions or thoughts on just the public outreach, the annual update that we would provide, or any other kind of outreach we do with the website or anything like that. Is there any further comments? Okay. With that, hearing none, you know, this time we kind of like to just go through and hit the highlight points of kind of where we are in the 13 different topics. If there's been any significant milestones since the last quarter, just to kind of keep everybody up to date on that. As typical, we'll just go straight down the list and have the lead individual just give an update if there's anything to update. If there's not, that's fine too. But we'll just continue or go through the list. So we'll start off with water quality. I think, Jeff, I saw that you were on. Are you there, Jeff?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, good. Yeah, just do very quickly on this. One of the things we've been doing is starting to really identify milestones. We haven't put them in here yet because we're in the new table because we want to like work them through a little bit more. But we think it's really important as we're moving forward towards the goals, try to outline the work a little bit more effectively than we have. I think we've been seeing a lot of success on the recommendation number 2 about getting more money for green infrastructure and stormwater. There's some barriers to us doubling some of that money, but we have been, we had a green infrastructure grant opportunity that we put out for just after the last meeting, and we got a good number of proposals on that one, over 40, and we're going through those right now. But there's a lot of interest in these kinds of information. Also, on the harmful algal blooms, there is the dashboard that's on the IEPA website, and they've been looking at the different routine and event responses. There's a process for people to notify the state of blooms that they see, and so we're seeing that more. In terms of, let's see, there's been some more work done on PFAS, where there was a sort of a one-time testing that went on that has been getting done, and the results are going to be up on the website in the calendar year 2024. And also on PFAS for fish contaminant, had the first year of monitoring on fish tissue sampling, and that's been, I don't have the outcomes of that yet, but the new equipment they have has been getting used, and they've been working on getting drinking water certification for PFAS by the first quarter of the calendar year 2024. And I think I'll leave it at that, and if anyone has any questions about any of the others, I'll take those.
Okay, very good. Any questions?
Jeff, this is Lauren. I guess maybe a favor on the 2 topics you mentioned. If there's a way that you can get me a link or just an update, both of those items come up on the Great Lakes Commission and the Governors and Premiers agenda frequently. And so whatever information you can provide for me to pass on for the state of Illinois in those 2 entities would be appreciated.
For the PFAS and the HABs, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Any further questions on water quality? And hearing none, we'll move on to climate change. Dave, do you have any updates you'd like to share with the group on climate change section?
No, there really have not been major changes in the climate change section that I'm aware of. Most of these categories we're waiting for some kind of support or looking for some kind of support for them. And there really hasn't been opportunities or many chances for that. The only thing I don't know the exact, the current status of IWIC, if Trent or Glenn or Jenny or Wes or anyone else has updates on that. I appreciate it if you could share it.
I'll cover that in integrated water management.
Okay. Then, yeah, no real changes. We're moving along slowly, but we are moving along on most of the categories.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Dave. Any questions for Dave in climate change? Hearing none, we'll move on to Lauren in the integrated water management section.
Yeah, thanks, Wes. I guess first and foremost, this is mostly going to be probably a legislative update more than anything, but the reason I'm pressing for our kind of annual report out, summary we just finished talking about, and having that in the hands right before the spring session is that we have continued to have very positive discussions with, at this point, not only some of the legislative liaisons of the various agencies, but we've had a discussion now with Senator Ellman. She's in the Naperville area, is primarily her district, and sits on a number of kind of important committees in the General Assembly. But we're moving forward to potentially have her be the sponsor of a bill that would basically codify the State Water Plan Task Force. And we've drafted that legislation, and so know that we're here before the spring session that effort will continue. And so we'll probably be reaching out again to each of the agencies' legislative liaisons for their awareness that that's going forward. Obviously, many of our stakeholders will also be privy once that bill is introduced to what we're trying to do there. And as we've talked about, and in the recommendation here as well, is really to put that in legislation instead of a former governor's order, executive order. But then that allows us to, once we have it in a legislative authorization, to be able to talk about appropriations and so forth for each of the entities to really help drive not only the staffing of the State Water Plan Task Force, but potentially then some of the implementation of recommendations associated with the State Water Plan Task Force. So definitely making some headway to that end. And right now it appears it'll probably be sponsored by Senator Laura Ellman, the State Water Plan Task Force. We also, Senator Ellman is also interested in sponsoring a water loss awareness resolution. And so that comes out of a recommendation that's also in the integrated water management section. And at this point, it really kind of sets the table, if you will, for potentially other legislation or resolutions. But really, she's interested in moving forward with this infrastructure water loss perspective to provide that awareness and what else is needed from a water supply perspective, obviously a Lake Michigan water allocation perspective. So that work continues on drafting up a resolution for the senator's consideration. We also, speaking of Lake Michigan and the water allocation program, specifically, we continue to expand that program. Luz Payen has come into that program, and her purpose will be to really do a significant amount of outreach related to water loss and water system improvement plans associated with the allocation of Lake Michigan water. As was noted earlier, I think on the from the water quality, there's also some legislation out there dealing with trying to provide more funding from a stormwater perspective through American Rivers. That still has some tweaking to go. IEMA and IEPA and DNR are scheduled to have meetings yet later this week to try and discuss how we as sister agencies deal with that pending legislation by the Illinois Environmental Council and American Rivers. So more to come on that. I'm happy to report too, in a general sense, more on the congressional side, that the Corps' Project Partnership Agreement reform and really a nationwide effort to improve the way we do business with the Corps on their project agreements in terms of redefining a project life for projects, dealing with some of the state liabilities and indemnification, dealing with the opportunities for philanthropy, donations into projects. We really have that's been a growing effort, and testimony's already been provided before Congress on that, and has been received quite well. So I would give that legislative update as well on Project Partnership Agreement reform. And I think we're getting going further down the path than we ever have before on that particular aspect. Finally, I'll get into a little bit on the Illinois Water Information Center. There has been some draft legislation proposed. Many thanks to Glenn and Laura and the State Water Survey team and their involvement through PRI to help draft some of that and put some information behind that. The feedback we've gotten, however, at this point is that we really probably have to have a little more meat on the bones, to use that analogy, before we would introduce that bill. Really saying you don't want to testify before a committee without, like an org chart with position descriptions behind that org chart that would then help justify a budget proposal in more detail for the Water Information Center. I tend to agree with that, given, from my experience in testifying before. I guess a question I would throw out to the group would be best suggestions for how to go forward there. I know, Laura and Glenn and others there at PRI, you've already done a fair amount of work there. Is there a willingness to try and do some further, or do we need to talk about who might need to go out to consulting services of sorts to try and get something put together? I just think we may need to have a little more homework before we press hard on that particular creation of that, so that we don't come up short. I want to go in very strong on that to make that happen. So I'm going to stop there and get others' inputs and thoughts on that. Thank you.
Glenn, this is Laura. Did you have anything that you wanted to talk about first?
Well, not necessarily, but Lauren, thank you for that feedback. And I think you're right. And this is something that Laura and I and others, Kevin O'Brien and Green Kumar here at the PRI, we've had a lot of discussions and trying to figure out, how to best position legislation that would be successful in getting the Integrated Water Information Center. And you're right. I think there is a little more flesh that needs to be added to the bones, so to speak. And we have a lot of ideas for the kinds of work that could be done, and trying to get kind of our arms around some what I'll call pilot projects or things that are already being identified in the state water plan as goals, and how we could progress on those in some small ways, and then setting up the idea that the center would be able to propagate those and expand them. It's not a bad idea to have some kind of more expert assistance potentially. I know we've have our legislative person, Rick Winkle, here at PRI, who's been involved in this, but it's the legislative piece, looking at what does it really take to initiate a center and do the things, the basic logistics of standing something like that up. And we have had some budgets that we've pulled together that kind of outline some thoughts for what would be done. But yeah, if I'm a legislator, I'm probably thinking that a little more detail could be useful before I would want to get behind it. Although we've been pushing on this for a few years now and learning as we go. Praveen Kumar, our director of PRI, certainly has some progressive thoughts about how to move forward, and I wouldn't want to speak for him, but I know that he's got his finger in the mix here, and I think he'll be continuing to add some valuable insight. And Laura, I'll turn it over to you. You maybe have had some more discussions that I haven't been privy to.
No, I mean, just in general, just to repeat just that we have talked about, kind of a meat on the bones approach and, trying to figure out what is the expertises that we need to start pulling some of this together. So I agree. I would like Glenn and I to maybe take this back to Kevin and Praveen and really go through some visioning about how to approach something like this, and then reach back out to you, Lauren, about if, what, not if, but when, getting some indicators for where we might be able to get some assistance to start pulling together, which what I would essentially call, a draft business plan for something like this. So appreciate the feedback, and if you allow us to have some internal discussions for a little bit, we can probably get some better feedback to you.
That'd be great, Laura. And I think maybe, if we need to, let me know if we need to powwow outside of this forum to combine our resources and thoughts on that. I'm happy to do that.
Sounds good.
With that, I'm done.
Okay, any other questions or comments for the integrated water management section? Hearing none, we'll move on to the long-term funding section. I think Nadan, looks like you are on. Are you available?
Yes, I am. Can you confirm if you can hear me, Wes?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon, all. Just a quick update. So under the long-term funding section, we are still continuing our focus and efforts on providing technical and financial support for underserved communities, especially now with the bipartisan infrastructure funding coming into our state revolving fund. We've had numerous opportunities to help out smaller communities in Illinois that may need some technical assistance to be able to be loan ready. We use our partners, Illinois Rural Water, as a sort of a partner that helps us conduct these efforts. And then also at the same time, we've been talking regularly with US EPA as well, as they have their own technical assistance centers as well that we sometimes like to utilize. So at this time, we have 2 or 3 different venues that we go about when it comes to offering technical and financial support to these smaller communities. And with the extra supplemental funding being available to us now, we are in the position of offering those services to more communities. So our goal at the agency and from a program standpoint is to continue those efforts down the road because we know bill funding is here to stay for at least 3 more years. So we're going to take full advantage of that and make sure that the communities continue to get the assistance that they need from a technical standpoint. Secondly, there's a point in there about if we're receiving state or federal funding, the state should require existing public water supply to utilize asset management plans to help them get ready for the SRF applications. That is a point on there, one of our goals for long-term funding, but as it states, we certainly don't have the authority right now in the state of Illinois to do it. A lot of other states have kind of gone down that path where they require each water system to have an asset management plan, but from an Illinois standpoint, we're just not there yet. So we're hoping conversations continue to take place, and eventually one day we'll be at a spot where we can offer this assistance to these water supplies as well. Last point I want to make is on the state should undertake a comprehensive statewide eval of current operations to identify technology. That's going to be a partnership. It's going to be a collaboration between different agencies, and I believe the conversations have taken place. We are moving in the right direction, but again, these conversations are still ongoing. We don't have a final solution yet, but we're certainly in the sort of the brainstorming phase of figuring out what the needs are and how to close that gap in terms of technology. So that is the update I have in terms of the long-term funding section. If anybody has any additional questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Hey, open up for any quick questions.
This is Jeff. I just wanted to add one thing. I think at the last meeting we had talked about for the statewide evaluation. Maybe we could have another discussion, maybe as part of this meeting, or figure out a way to get feedback from other agencies on what they're doing in terms of improving their technology or identifying technology needs, because we really do need to narrow this one down a little bit on a certain level. So.
Yeah, Jeff, I would agree with that it'd probably be worthwhile just to have a standalone meeting. Would probably be justified with the length of conversation. I think that could follow that topic on all the technology that each agency's leveraging right now. So, it may be advantageous to reach out to each agency and see if there's kind of a dedicated staff member that'd like to sit in and just kind of share that information. I think there could be a lot of benefit to doing that.
I would just add in that I think, as we've talked now about, formalizing the State Water Plan Task Force, that's a prime example of something the task force could certainly focus on and help, since we're we're the coming together of multiple agencies. It's just good government. So I would say, yes, use the task force as a means to go after that recommendation.
I guess I do have one question, but I think it kind of is directed another way. So Lauren, you made some comments about some funding that may be coming, some legislation on the stormwater funding. Does that kind of apply to that second topic up there, establish new water resources state revolving?
Yes.
Okay. So we probably have some progress made under that recommendation that we probably could share. So I might just get with you a little bit further to kind of give it, especially since we're looking at publishing this, and I'll kind of talk after we go through everybody about, well, since we broached the topic, I might as well jump into it. So what I might be doing, if I haven't gotten an update from you recently, I might be reaching out just to see if we can get this filled in. And since we're hitting that 1-year milestone, I assume that, sometimes quarterly there may not be much progress, but really be helpful once we hit these annual milestones to really take some time to fill this in, and I'll do more on my end to kind of follow up on that and get these numbers up to date and everything. I'd hate to not report progress that has been made. So if you haven't sent something to me and you see that, I appreciate if you could go ahead and send it to me. Otherwise, I might be reaching out to you to fill in some details here. And just so you all know, just for reference, when I showed the statistics, this is pulling directly from this sheet. So what I'm looking at is this estimated percent completion, and I'm using that. If it's 100% that I mark it as, that's how we denote something's completed. And then that's also where we get the statistics of, the amount started. If it's above 0, then it's obviously started, and the percent progression. So it's really important for us to show progress over the year in each quarter by filling out that percent complete. I know there's a number of recommendations that are kind of ongoing and kind of programs that continue on, but I think it's really important that if we have it as a recommendation, it's more than just saying we're going to keep this going, but it's going to be how are we progressing it, or what are we really trying to accomplish? And if it is really just maintaining it, then, does that need to be a recommendation in the State Water Plan Task Force? Because it's not really changing anything that's already in existing practice. And I guess if you have any questions, we can maybe walk through or talk about that, because there's probably a lot of individual scenarios that may be hard to kind of come up with a blanket answer to. So, feel free to reach out to me on that, or I might follow up to see how we can kind of have milestones to determine if progress is being made in those, or how to best share that with the public to show that we're implementing portions of these recommendations.
Wes, and this is Lauren. I might also add in, as you pointed out, that second recommendation under long-term funding about the new, state revolving fund kind of a thing. That's an example of where an outside entity has gleaned hold of a recommendation that they like in the water plan and have said, hey, we want to try to advance this. And so that's where, we need to realize that there are other entities besides our agencies that have an interest in trying to advance some of these recommendations. And so I think it behooves us to stay plugged into that and keep our, keep some guidance on that in a way, right? I mean, if it's going the way we want, great, God bless them as they go, but we got to be careful that it doesn't turn into something that started as something we wanted and go another direction that gives any of the agencies difficulty. But that's one. More to come. Like I said, there's tweaking on that, but that's an example of an outside entity that has said, "Oh, this is good stuff. We want to try and move that," and so we will. So just make that point. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's something that's worth noting on our annual report, saying how we've had a lot of outside interest coming and implementing these recommendations. Just because we recommend something doesn't mean it has to be carried forward by a state agency. There may be a partner that we have that can carry that forward for us. So, definitely worth something noted. The other thing I'll just say is I'm kind of going through my record keeping of these, is that whenever I send these out, I was looking for the lead to kind of provide the full table for me. So if there's additional tasks that are assigned someone other than the lead, I kind of am looking to those individuals, hopefully to reach out and get the updates from whoever that task contact is, so that we can kind of keep this table up and moving. Again, I know quarterly may be a lot, but at least at a minimum, as we hit this January annual deadline, definitely try to at least get a check-in on all the tasks listed and get an update with that. So just wanted to mention that as we're kind of progressing through here. Is there any other comments or questions on long-term funding? And hearing none, we'll move on to water sustainability. And Wade, do you have any updates to provide on water sustainability?
Yes, Wes. First of all, can we let Walt Kelly from State Water Survey to update improving water use accuracy with outreach and metering? Walt?
Yeah, thanks, Wei. This actually speaks to the partnership that Wes, you and Lauren were just talking about. We're working with the USGS on an Illinois River project, and as part of that, we've gotten some funding from them to buy some meters and install them, about 10 of them in this first year of the project. We're going to be doing that out in Mason County. So I think that's probably still at 0% completion, but once they get installed, we can bump that number up.
Oh, come on, Walt. I'll give you a couple of points for that. No. Thanks, Walt. Appreciate the update.
Sure.
I'm going to call it 5% just because some work has been done on it. So it makes me feel better.
All right. Whatever works for you, Wes.
Okay, thank you, Walt. As far as determining water sustainability yield, we had a meeting with State Water Survey in December last year. The State Water Survey indicated some concerns from stakeholders regarding publishing water supply and demand data. So we tentatively determined to publish this data set through a beta version website for public review and comments. And later on, we will further improve and complete this data set based on public input. So this is a temporary decision made last month. As far as the regional water supply planning program, we have Heartland Conservancy, which is a planning and consulting organization, signed a grant agreement last month for the Kaskaskia water supply planning. That agreement is pending IDNR execution. So it's not been finalized yet, but we're close to complete this contract.
Okay. All right. Any questions to weigh on water sustainability? And hearing none, we'll go on to our Lake Michigan section, and I guess I'll turn it over to Lauren for the moment.
And I think, Tara, correct me if I'm wrong, but because I think you'll probably be giving the update on that. But before we do, I just want to introduce the task force to Meg Kelly, who's actually joined us here a few minutes ago. I think she's been listening in on her way down to Springfield today. But Meg Kelly takes over the helm of our coastal management program, and will be a key player in Lake Michigan and certainly the Lake Michigan aspects of the state water plan. So welcome, Meg, to the group. Happy to have you on board. And with that, I'll turn it over to you and then to Tara.
Okay, thank you. Just saying hi to everybody and listening in, and just really thrilled to be here. I see a lot of familiar names, not faces because we're on the screen here, but I see a lot of familiar names up there, and happy to be working with everybody. So thanks for having me.
Great, thank you, Meg. Tara, are you going to be providing the update?
Hi, Lauren. Yeah, I can provide. I think Anya's also on, but she might be working on something. So hi everyone, Happy New Year. So we don't have too many things to update for the Lake Michigan section, but we do have a couple things. So as Lauren just mentioned, we have a new director for the coastal program, Meg Kelly. So that's super exciting. We'll be engaging a lot of planning efforts, I'm sure, in the next few months. So that'll kind of tie into some of the efforts going on here. We also released at the end of last year our 2024 coastal grants opportunity. So the deadline for that just passed a couple days ago. And so this month we'll be reviewing those and making some awards to local organizations for various like planning efforts, water quality things. Yeah, we're not going to be planning any or funding any restoration work this time, so that'll be new. But that opens us up to fund some other things. So in addition to that, we're currently putting together a proposal for NOAA's Coastal Zone Management Habitat Protection and Restoration funding. This is a funding opportunity that's open only to coastal programs. We submitted 3 LOIs at the end of, or like some point during last year, and 2 of them were invited back for a full proposal. So we're working on submitting those. The major one that we're working on is a hydrologic study for Illinois Beach State Park. So that'll be a huge effort with a bunch of different partners, and there'll also be some engagement, community engagement that's also built into that project. I do have a couple other updates. So we have a South Shore Resilience Plan and a North Shore Resilience Plan that we're working on. The South Shore Resilience Plan, we just kicked off community engagement last year in November. So we just had a sort of level setting education meeting, and the next 2 engagement events will be hosted at some point in the next coming months. And then for the North Shore Resilience Plan, we're going to be working with Stantec to build a coastal resource hub and data viewer. So they have just kind of gotten started on that. They're scoping out what that will look like, what sort of data sources to use. So if you all have any resources that you think we should use, feel free to send them to me. And then one final update is we are going to be partnering with Current, an organization in this region, and a bunch of other regional partners to apply for the NOAA's Climate Ready Workforce Grant. The LOIs were due in December, so Current submitted for that, and a full proposal is going to be due in February. So that'll be a big grant opportunity led by Current with us sort of as a supporting partner related to workforce development within the coastal region. And those are all the updates for the coastal side of things. I'm not sure if Russell is on the call to give some updates on the water allocation side, but if he is, he can jump in. If not, then that's all the updates for us.
Okay, Tara, I apologize. Yeah, is there any questions on Lake Michigan to Tara? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to flood damage mitigation. Unfortunately, Tara is not able to join us, but she did want me just to note one thing that, and I'm not a proficient in knowledge on this topic, but I believe as of 2024, they passed new legislation for building code, as it was noted in one of these recommendations here, the adapt to statewide building codes, as you see here. So I think it's my understanding those have been adapted and are implemented. So, you know, Tara did update this to 50%, so I'm not sure if there's more that needs to be done. Maybe she's referencing the green codes in here, and that's why it's not marked completely finished. But she just wanted me to note that on her section to the group. So if you're curious, you can take a look at those new statewide building codes that should be now available. I guess I can open up for questions, and I'll do my best to answer them if anybody has any questions on flood damage mitigation. All right, not hearing any. We will move it on to the aquatic and riparian habitat, and I see Brian is logged in with us. Brian, do you have any updates to give us on the aquatic and riparian habitat section?
Yes, Wes, I'll be just brief here. A couple of things. One, the second half of last year was able to meet with some administrators and program staff at the DNR and develop some more concrete funding needs to implement some of these recommendations. So that's changed a little bit in the table. The other item is that I've been talking with some associates at the EPA. They have some ideas on several of these. Hope that this year we'll be able to get together and talk about how to either acquire the resources needed or how to get started on some of these recommendations. So a few of these that are not filled in should be, we should be able to move forward on some of those sometime this year.
Sounds great, Brian. Is there any questions or comments for Brian? Hearing none, I guess we'll keep on moving along and we'll move on to Steve Altman. I believe Steve was on as I searched for his name, and yep, there he is. Steve, you have any updates for us on water use law and regulations?
Way's going to take three of these. I know that we did have that. We did have the proposal for legislation to regulate water use. It wasn't passed out of the House. I believe it passed out of the Senate. I think the sponsors were looking to reintroduce with the next session. So we'll see where it goes from there. And then at the last meeting we had Rachel Haverlock, and a lot of discussion about some research up in the Chicago area to look at water reuse and how applicable it could be. With the legislation for diversions outside of Illinois, we haven't really gotten started with that. That has been something that's kind of been putting on the back burner. It's, I know Lauren and I have talked about it a little bit, and it did come up a little bit towards the end of our before the water plan was completed. Basically, nothing's really pushed forward. We haven't had any recent inquiries with regard to other states wanting our water. So I think kind of monitor that from here on out. And then Wei, I think you were going to talk about the other ones.
Okay, Steve, we did receive a proposal from Mohammed Aquifer Consortium in December, and that proposal does not align with the groundwater management and the sustainability quite well. So that proposal was denied, and we also invited the MAC to resubmit a proposal based on the goal of groundwater sustainability. So that's for the authorized groundwater management district. That's about groundwater management. Also for the meter high capacity well water use, Again, this is led by the State Water Survey and the Illinois Water Inventory Program. So I don't have an update on this. And Walt, do you have any update on this recommendation?
No, I don't have anything at this point.
Okay, I think that will be all for this section. Steve and Wes.
I would agree.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Is there any questions or comments on water use law and regulations?
Well, this is Lauren. I guess a comment, and Steve, we can get back with you on the recommendation, proposed legislation, I guess water diversions outside of Illinois. I know that some work has been moved forward through the Upper Mississippi River Basin Association related to, diversions out of the Mississippi watershed, including, obviously the Illinois River watershed. And so we may be able to provide a little bit of an update based on some of what that regional group is trying to move forward on. We can plug in a little more, but that I think kind of ties into potentially that third recommendation in there that we might be able to take advantage of some of that. Thank you.
Yeah, I know Way has been doing some work on that. I think the recommendation calls for proposed legislation, so it's a question of whether it's exactly meeting the description of that. But yeah, there is some work done with the Upper Mississippi River Basin and neighboring states to kind of define some of that diversion information and share that amongst neighboring states and get a little bit further away. Is there anything further you want to speak of that, or is that kind of adequately give a quick summary of it?
Wes, I don't have anything at this time.
Okay, very good. Any other comments for water use laws and regulations? Hearing none, we'll move on to navigation. And Brian McCoy, you have any updates for us on navigation?
Thanks, Russ. Yeah. So what we have here, I've updated is a little bit more progress towards the measures. That's what we've been working on recently is see if we can come up with a game plan for identifying the estimated completion percentage and the completion dates. And starting to identify projects for funding and then get some quantifying numbers. So hopefully there's going to be we'll have a significant change for the next quarter within our numbers. I started putting in some of the projects, looking at for the infrastructure projects that were awarded funding, primarily it's planning funds that are available. There's been some funding for some infrastructure. We're still lacking significant amount of funding for infrastructure and construction projects with state funds. So we do not have an annual appropriation, and we're relying heavily upon our state freight program, which has only a small amount of funds available. So those numbers are going to be updated. Put those in there. I've already identified some of the program information we put in the description statuses that highlights some progress, and then we'll get some quantifying numbers in there to track that better. As well as that kind of leads into, we got the projects for the Corps of Engineers, locks and dams, and that's going to be an ongoing. Of course, that's a slow process, so it hasn't had much updates recently. Some other highlights I have that work that we've been doing on is education and outreach. We identified a significant amount of work needing to get involved with educating the public, putting information out there. And one of the things we've done recently is we've updated our IDOT's Marine Transportation website and provided links to all the studies that have been completed. Some of them are research studies or some data studies that's been done on there as well. So the public now have access to that. and also consolidated web pages that has a lot of the navigation waterway attribute information is put on there, and other resources to other links that are related. So if you guys have like a significant link or related information or a study that might benefit, I might want to draw attention to, we can just send that to me, put a link on our website, and we'd like to try to share and sending people to the right place. So also we want to like reach out to the public for advocating the importance of navigation in our marine transportation system. So we're looking at what options are out there available so that we can educate youth in the community and then the general public to see what kind of, if we can do a program or communicate in some avenue with that. So we're going to try to, that's going to be in development sometime the next year or two. That pretty much wraps up our latest updates that we have. Again, if anybody had anything that's like resources or links or anything, just shoot me an email. I welcome that. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Brian. Is there any questions or comments on the navigation section for Brian? Hearing none, we'll move right along to the erosion sedimentation, and I'm trying to see if Brian, I think Brian, you're on, or do you have any updates for us on the erosion sedimentation section?
I am still here. One big update, as I've got to say, is Dr. Michael Woods was the point of this. He's now moved on. He is now the executive director at the Association of Illinois Soil and Water Conservation District. So I'll be stepping back into this role. Him and I have a meeting tomorrow to kind of go through where we're at with the erosion and sedimentation stopping points, and the moving points and problems that we've got. So after that, hopefully for our next meeting, I will have a little more of an update.
Well, welcome back, Brian. I did notice that you're stepping back in, so it's good to have you back officially back in the slide. I know you've been sitting in on a lot of these meetings, but we appreciate you kind of filling in as Michael stepped away and continuing to participate in this effort. So I guess we'll just ask if there's any questions or anything on the erosion sedimentation section to Brian. All right, hearing none, we'll move on to Laura Kiefer with data management. Laura, are you there?
I'm here. We're making some good progress on composing that proposal with tasks and a budget to create to develop a comprehensive evaluation of the state stream gauging network. So once it's probably just a couple weeks away from us feeling kind of good about it, so that then we can be a proposal in the hunt for funding. So, but we can't go out and ask funding till we have meat on the bones, right, Lauren? So,
Exactly.
yeah, so that's pretty close. And I think I've said before, as far as this working group to explore the feasibility of a statewide stream gauging data collaborative or council, I've put that on hold because they need something to discuss, like the evaluation of the stream gauging network. So that one is always going to be on hold until an evaluation can be performed and reported. That's all I have.
All right.
Laura, could that group be like a subcommittee of the task force that focuses on the gauges for those?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, are there any other questions for Laura in data management? All right, and last but not least, we'll move on to Brian. I like the comments. I think we got about 4 or 5 Brians. I think they're as close to a majority of the participants in here.
From Brian.
Brian recommended that Brian be a part of the subcommittee. I appreciate that. All right. And lastly, but not least, we'll move on to recreation. I see Seth is on. Seth, do you have any updates for us on the recreation section of this water plan task force?
Hey, Wes. Nothing right now. Mike, our fisheries chief, took over chairing the committee. Brendan and myself, I think we're still helping him on that. But he wasn't able to make the call today. So I was just taking notes for him, but there is nothing to update as of yet.
Okay. Thank you very much, Seth. Appreciate you stepping in while Mike couldn't make it. Is there any questions or comments on recreation? Okay, hearing none, we'll just go back to our agenda, and I think I actually had this slightly out of place, but I did have legislative updates. I think Lauren kind of hit everything he wanted to, as he noted that I was going a little out of turn on the agenda, but so we've already talked about that, State Water Plan Task Force codification and IWIC. Is there any other legislative updates that weren't covered in the recommendations that anybody would like to share? Okay, hearing none, I guess I will just move if there's any open topic or open discussion, anything that needs to be mentioned, essentially new business that should be brought to attention to the task force. All right, hearing none as well. Just a couple of kind of wrap-up points. Our next meeting will be on April 8th. It will again be a virtual meeting. In the following meetings, we'll have July 8th, which will be, again, another virtual meeting. And then as we discussed prior, we'd have our annual in-person meeting on October 14th. Is there, I guess, there's a couple of tasks that we talked about is forming the subcommittee on stream gauging. So maybe, I don't know, Laura, if you maybe intend to follow up or reach out to a few individuals on that may be able to make up that subcommittee. Also, if there's any recommendations that you feel, kind of justify a subcommittee, whenever we created this plan, we had not only the lead agency, but supporting agencies. So there's a lot of opportunity to work with other agencies on the task force to move some of these recommendations forward. I guess, is there any closing concerns, comments?
Wes, a comment, maybe our next meeting, April 8th, that is the solar eclipse. And so I didn't know, as long as everybody's going to be available, then I think we go forward. But it might be worth finding out before we, seal that in our calendars, whether we're going to have a quorum, so to speak, or if folks are, and I don't remember what time of the day, where that's going to, if it, like if it's at 1:30, then we may have a challenge, but I just note that, and I can look, maybe we can find that on the internet, but I do know that the solar eclipse is happening that day, so we want to maybe give that some thought if that still works.
I guess I'll throw it out there. Does anybody think that could become a schedule conflict for them? Should we look at rescheduling? We could easily push it. I'd hate to reschedule it for April 1st, and then we're dealing with April Fool's Day and the shenanigans that may ensue as a response to that. We could push it to the 15th. I guess I'll open it up. Any thoughts about moving next quarter's meeting off of April 8th?
Well, for me, I may be doing field work that day, so I might not be able to attend. So I'd prefer the 15th, but I don't think anyone else in the group is involved in that field work, though.
This is Glenn. at the water survey. Just for your information, I will be attending the solar eclipse out of state myself, but I've had experience here recently trying to schedule other meetings with people and finding that this is a difficult day, but there are quite a few people that are interested in being a part of the solar eclipse. According to the internet, the eclipse begins at 2:05 p.m. Central Time and ends at 3:20 p.m. Central Time.
I say we move it.
Is anybody opposed to moving next meeting to April 15th? Same time. Again, it's just the following Monday. Is there any concerns of April 15th?
No concerns.
All right,
think it
well,
should be good.
I think we will go ahead and look at modifying the date of the next meeting. I think, Megan, if you could just kind of make a note that I think we're actually due to send out another set of meeting reminders. So we'll need to move that meeting to the 15th and also send out the upcoming ones as well. So we'll work at that. Hopefully you'll see that coming to your inbox here shortly. And with that, I'll kind of turn it back to Lauren for any final comments or anything.
No, thank you, Wes. Just by the nature of what we've put together, it takes a bit to get through 13 topics and all of the issues of water across the state that are related. So thanks everybody for staying plugged in and giving the brief updates so that we don't drag this into a very long meeting that loses interest. And so I think everybody did a great job today. Appreciate everybody's work on that. Again, we're, always here, Wes and Tara and Megan and I and others, that if you've got something come up, please reach out to us as the serving chair here and we'll deal with it then. So with that, I hope everybody enjoys the eclipse on the 8th, but we'll talk soon. And I think I'm good.
All right, thank you all. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.